living life with real people and real stories. This series is a window into the human experience. It's about where we've been more recently, where we are today, but also, and most importantly, where we're going. This is an opportunity for us all to step back, to reassess and redefine how well-being shows up in our lives each and every day. So I hope that you can sit back, you can listen, learn, and connect.
So COVID kicked off for us probably February.
You were running a large...
So I was the head of nursing in a large hospital covering medicine.
Yeah.
But actually most of our beds were medicine. So we had about 400 beds and we had probably 3/4 of them, maybe more, were patients with COVID.
Really? Mm. What was that like?
It was horrendous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. And I don't think anybody knew what it was going to be like at the beginning. It was really awful. And it was awful for everybody. For the staff on the wards that don't really see death that much now. Yeah. And to the people at my level and above who are making really difficult decisions.
Yeah. And so, like, in the eye of the storm, what like give me a day in the life of what that was like for you and for the nurses.
So it's probably a bit different for me and the nurses on the wards, because I covered quite a lot of wards and therefore a lot of staff. But it was, on some wards there were 22 patients. On our elderly care wards there were 38 patients, all of whom were really, really sick with COVID. And that's, so I don't cover ITU, but our ITU at normal times would have about 19 patients and it went up to about 58. So we had taken over anywhere that they could safely take over.
Right.
So a typical day right in the heart of it for me would be playing messages to people who were dying from their families because nobody could come in. So listening to people, knowing that they were they were able to talk, but they knew that they were not going to make it. Yeah. So listening to a man on one of my wards phoning up his daughter and asking her to look after his wife because he knew he was going to die. Gosh. He just didn't know when. So it was death like you've never seen before. Yeah. Some of the wards might have a death a month in normal times, and some were getting 6 an hour. Yeah. So it was really, really, really harsh. And then the most stupidest thing setting you off, so leaving work after sort of 10, 14 hours and then getting home and there's no food because there's no food in the supermarket. So I remember crying in my car outside my house because I just wanted some peanut butter on toast. No idea why. But no bread.
Peanut butter and toast is good.
But you couldn't get bread at all. Yeah. And there was just nothing.
Yeah. What do you think, just kind of as we kind of progress and hopefully get through this whole thing called COVID, there's going to be a weight that people are going to be walking around with just based on, especially nurses, based on what they experienced.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. We're not, we've got better. And I'm sure, some places do it really well. Some places might not do it as well, but we're not brilliant at looking after our own mental health and debriefing and all that sort of stuff. So we did try and get some in, but then it was really difficult to release people from the wards to go and have that help.
Yeah. Is there a stigma around that internally, you think? Is there
No, I don't think there is now.
Yeah.
I think people are more... I think if this has happened sort of 10 years ago, then maybe people might not have been as ready to admit. But people were, openly... I had ward managers openly crying, saying, I don't actually know how much more I can do with this. Yeah. I don't know if, I don't know if I can come in tomorrow and do it again. Yeah. I saw a therapist for about a year after, maybe a bit more, after the retreat I went on. Yeah. And she kept saying, because I frustrated her greatly because I don't talk very well. And she kept...
You mean you don't talk about those things?
No. And so she kept saying to me, I just want you to know that I've got extra supervision and you can talk to me about anything. But there's a part of me that thinks, well, you don't need to know how awful it was and how bad it was, so I just won't tell you.
Maybe it's not about how awful it was, it's more about how it felt.
Yeah. But I suppose to tell you how it felt, you have to say what happened, don't you?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think it's a moment to thank you for that because, I mean, you know, you and all the nurses involved, I mean, there was like this new redefining moment of what a hero is, and it's not a person holding a gun going off to war, it's that person, you know, sitting, being willing to stay up, sit in the hospitals, you know, on the front line. So
that's good. Yeah,
is that weird to hear?
It's very uncomfortable.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know why it is, but I find that really, I found all that clapping and it was nice, but I found it really difficult. And every week my kids would say to me, you need to go out, because the whole street would be out clapping, and then I'd come out and they'd start cheering. And I found that so, I just wanted to run back inside.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know why. I think it's just, I don't know. It's just what we've chosen to do, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I suppose we've never really had that before as nurses. You know, historically you can get quite a bit of abuse being a nurse, especially an A&E nurse. So we've never had that where people cared about what we did. And we've always done things that are really hard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I found it really, so I find that really uncomfortable.
That's feedback. Yeah. And what does that come from, do you think? Where was that kind of desire to help others?
I don't know. I suppose I've always been a bit of a nurturer.
Yeah.
And so I had a troubled childhood, and so I spent most of my childhood looking after or looking out for my mum. So I think that's probably where it came from.
Okay.
And have spent the rest of the time putting everyone else first, which isn't necessarily very healthy.
Yeah. Which makes sense whenever you say it was hard for you to, you know, embrace the clapping as you walked out the front door and went to work. Yeah. What on a personal level, you know, we've got what it was like for you in your role. What was it like trying to manage your own personal life? Not in relation to the work, but like just taking care of yourself when you could. If that was that, did you find that more challenging? Did you find
what during COVID or generally?
During COVID.
COVID happened about 4 months after the retreat that I went on.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd ever done something for me, and the first time I'd ever been away on my own with knowing nobody in my life, I think. And so I had already realised from that weekend that I needed to tackle some things and make some change.
Okay.
So from there I went home, did nothing obviously for a few weeks, and then I found a counsellor. So I picked a counsellor online who had a nice face. And was that the first time you had ever in my life? I've always told everybody that I didn't need counselling. I'm absolutely fine. It was all, didn't need it. But I thought, I don't know, maybe I do. So I started counselling. I arranged a personal trainer, and I didn't really put my whole heart into it, if I'm honest. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to the gym every week. I'm fabulous, and didn't really do anything else. Didn't do any of the eating and all that stuff. I just thought, you know, enough. But you didn't realise that. I guess you came to realise that. I came to realise that actually doing that for an hour with a kettlebell wasn't enough. Yeah. So then I started walking, and I hadn't really walked properly for ages, and so I started walking, and I bore lots of people with pictures of my walking on my social media, and I post every day. Everyone takes the mickey out of me and says it's all boring, but I do it for my own accountability, because I'm really rubbish at being accountable to myself. So I started walking, and it was really quite pathetic in the beginning. I'd get really out of breath. I was about 1.5 stone heavier. Well done. And so I started walking, and then when COVID hit, the walking became my mental health sort of lifeline, as it were. Yeah. And you know, sometimes you'd get a day off. You might get a morning off or a day off during the week because you were going to work the weekend, or you just, you know, we took it in turns to have a day off because it was so, you know, horrendous. And I would go out. I'm really lucky where I live that I've got lots of beautiful places to walk, and I'd go out, and we were lucky with the weather at this time last year, and I would just walk through the woods and think, thank God. And actually, if I hadn't have started that journey, I don't know how. I think I would have coped far worse. And as the year went on with all the extra stuff that happened, I think that I wouldn't have coped with it as well.
Yeah.
If I hadn't have started that journey. And it's hard.
Yeah.
Because I always used to think, if we were always, we never earned a lot of money, myself and my ex-husband, and we had 3 young kids, and I lived on cereal some nights to make sure the kids ate, and then I'd have a bowl of shreddies, and they still talk about it now. And I always used to think, when I get money, if I could pay off all my debt, I'll be absolutely fine, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And then my dad died, and I could pay my debt off, and I wasn't really that happy. And then I used to think, well, maybe I won't be happy when I'm skinny then. Maybe there's something else.
Huh. Self-discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So this was coming into this off the back of the retreat.
Yeah.
Starting to do things differently. More recently, I guess. Give us a kind of window into Anna today, and what's coming up.
So Anna today is so I am separated from my husband, so I live with my children, although 2 are at university. So now I think I'm healthier, need to be healthier though.
Yeah.
I think I've probably worked out why I self-sabotage so much, although I haven't managed to stop that yet.
So this is a new one, self-sabotage. What does that look like?
So I get so far and do so well, and then I just think, oh, I'll either reward myself with normally food, something, like a takeaway or whatever. Yeah. I'll have a day off and I'm going to eat what I want, and it's not drink, it's eat for me. Okay. And then that rolls into another day, and then I put a bit of weight back, and I think, oh, and then I think it's just too much like hard work. Yeah. But I haven't gone right back. So I need to, and it is around, I am doing this to myself, honest. I get that my feelings are caused because of what I think.
Yeah. And it's probably comfortable, right? It's familiar for you.
It's my pattern.
Yeah.
I've always been told I'll never be able to do it.
Yeah.
So you just go back to your norm, don't you? Your comfort.
Yeah.
Which is not bothering.
Yeah, but I mean, you also know it, right? So you also know where it comes from, and you know that it's...
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I don't, yeah. I suppose I do know now.
Yeah, I feel like, because I have my own versions of that in life, and it's that, it's that classic, stepping into the discomfort, right? It's not comfortable to start to look at life differently, or start to feel like you deserve success, or that you deserve to feel good. And again, I have versions of that play out in my life where it's like, oh, I'm starting to feel different, and this is my cue to go in and disrupt progress. Or
yeah, I think sometimes you feel that it sounds like a bit cliche, doesn't it? But I think that if you've had a bit of a crappy time during your life, sometimes you don't feel that you are worthy of it, or it's very difficult. I find it very difficult to say nice things about myself, and was always told that all the time in my appraisals. Stop beating yourself down. And my last chief nurse used to say to me, "Why are you apologising for that? That's really good. You just own it. Go in and own it." But I find that really hard.
Really? What do you think we need to do?
What do I think I need to do?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
What's something that you can say about yourself that just feels so against your core, and core being your programmed self, who the place that you came from? Well, like if you said to yourself, either internally or externally, some kind of I am statement that almost combats this cycle, what would that statement be?
That I'm proud. Oh God, that I'm proud of what I've managed to achieve in my life.
I'm proud.
That I find that really hard. So one of the things I did with Tara, my therapist, was you have to do a timeline of horrendous things that happened in your life, and she asked me to pick 6 or something, and it took a little while, and she said, are you trying to find 6? I said, no, I'm trying to pick the 6, which sounds a bit sad, but I actually had quite a lot to pick from. And so she did this childhood trauma score, laughing, you see, to hide the stress. And if you score 5 or 6 and above, then you are more likely to either be dead because you've killed yourself, be addicted to drugs, or in prison. And I scored a 7. Okay. So it was yes to all the questions apart from 2. And I suppose that was the first time that internally I could think it, because I wouldn't even have been able to think it internally. I suddenly looked at it and thought, oh my God, I wasn't exaggerating. Because people used to say, somebody used to say to me quite often, this is just exaggeration, it can't have been that bad. And so you start to think that you've made this up in your head, that it was that bad for all your life. So I did this thing, and then I didn't really think a huge amount of it, and I went home, and it really affected me for the whole week in between my sessions. Yeah. And then I kept looking at it thinking, flipping hell, I've done all right then, really. In the scheme of things. Yeah. Don't take drugs, never have done. I've got a job, not in prison, still alive.
Yeah. So let's see what it feels like to say I am proud. And be sincere.
Oh God. So yes, I'm quite proud of myself.
Yeah. One more time.
God. So I am proud of myself for getting through the last 50-something years.
So where are we going?
So where am I going? So I want to be, I want to feel confident, and I want to feel comfortable. I think that would be what I'd say. So I still have an anxiety. I'm still quite self-conscious about how I look and stuff. So I suppose, and I still have quite a bit of anxiety.
Yeah. Around those things, or just like a generalized?
So sometimes I've got an anxiety now, so I'm having to talk about myself, and that's really hard.
I can tell you're getting kind of squirmy.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
I mean, you're only human, right? So.
Yeah, so I know that I'm confident in what I do for a job, and I know that people come to me and they value my opinion and stuff like that. It's not work so much. I'm very different when I'm at work.
Yeah, I can see. I could see that.
It's me.
Yeah,
that's my issue.
It's behind the. It's
behind this unit. Yeah. I've got a fabulous front.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank God, right? And imagine all the great things that you've done. It's because of that person that you built, and it sounds like you're needing to get back to, Anna.
I don't think I've really ever necessarily been Anna. Maybe.
Yeah. Wow. Mm. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, and scary.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's got to be scary and be exciting for sure. There's that book called The Second Mountain. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's essentially about the different mountains in life. And you've climbed one, right? You worked at the NHS. You got through a pandemic, and now you're kind of at the base of another mountain, which is really exciting.
Yep.
Yeah. One more time.
Oh no.
One more time.
I'm proud.
I like that. How do you feel?
I feel a bit sort of lighter, actually, I have to say.
I think we're allowed to hug right now.
We are.
Can we do that?
We could hug from yesterday. Thank you for listening. Thank you.